What is up, traders? Welcome to the official Trade Talk channel, where I show you how I analyze price for the most consistent and higher probable entries to help you guys become better traders. Bitcoin had a little bit of strength at the beginning of the week last week, but then as you can see on the chart here, that strength ran into a brick wall of sellers, and now we are back down to the edge of the weekly open. So in today's video, we're going to go over what happened last week and what we could potentially look for to happen next week. If that sounds good to you, then make sure you stick around until the end. All right, so we did get the breakout. The breakout that I am talking about, of course, does come from the descending trend line that we had right there. So basically, that was the trend line that we were watching. There was the breakout, big strong move out of the breakout, which is typically what we want to see when something like that, when a specific formation is being broken out of. We want to see that volatility. We want to see that rip to the upside, but also what we want to see is support to hold. Now, I was looking for support to hold at a couple daily levels that were formed over in here, but as you can see, price dropped all the way back down to the weekly open. This first 4-hour candle would be the start of last week's range. Big move to the upside, liquidating the previous 2 weeks that we had. That's typically a pretty bullish thing, but we're all the way back down at the open. So depending on where we close out this candle tomorrow will determine what we're probably going to be looking for next week. And it looks like, as of right now, any tiny bit of a move to the upside is being sold off, and that's not very bullish. We go out to the monthly time frame, you're going to see that currently we have a new month. This monthly candle's in its infancy, as it's only 4 days old. Currently you are trading under last month's close, but still inside of that big downrange candle. So right now it's just an inside month. We haven't really seen the move. We thought we were going to get a move higher, but essentially it was just faded. So as you can see right now, you're trading as a bearish candle, and resistance was essentially found where it opened. All right, so if we mark the monthly open here, we can go back into the chart, the weekly chart, and you can basically see that we opened the week, had the breakout, tested last month's closing price, and that's where we have rejected back down to the open. All right, so here we have the Bitcoin accumulation trend score. We've been watching this metric for a while since we've been able to access it. It is a new tool, but you can see that we are seeing a lot of accumulation down here. 22 days of accumulation, all of them being higher than 0.89, and then 11 of those 22 days with a complete trend score of 1. And this is exchange data. All exchanges is piped into this metric. So we do know that there is a ton of buying going on inside of the exchanges at these lower areas. We can also see that correlation here on the open interest chart. Since we did hit these lows down here and have been trading sideways, this line chart is on daily closes. So you've been down in this region for 22 days. You can see that your open interest is indeed climbing. Now, when we did get the breakout, the open interest obviously spiked up a little bit, and then on the last day of the breakout we seen a little drop in open interest. But even though we did get a nice move lower back down to the weekly open, you can see that open interest is still rather high, being at $13.5 billion. So it's probable that we're going to see a move coming up pretty soon. I can't tell you which way, obviously, but if you're in an overall downtrend and the pops are getting sold into so heavily, then typically you're probably going to be looking for that move lower. Now, this is the thing with the chart leaving a obvious clear target up here being last week's high, then any bullish move that does start to happen, that would more than likely be the bullish target. But unfortunately, with all the other metrics that we have that we're talking about in today's video, today's discussion, it's really pointing me in the direction of down. So we're likely to see our bearish target get hit in the next couple weeks. Yesterday we had non-farm payrolls. The job print was forecasted to be 325,000 jobs. We actually got 390,000 jobs, but that was revised down from 436,000 jobs last month. Unemployment rate was previously 3.6%. Forecasted was to be 3.5%, which was lower, but the actual number came in lower, or back up to 3.6%. So this shows just a slight percentage drop on the job numbers. This is also why we seen a down day yesterday. So, that put us right back down to the weekly open. You can see on the daily time frame here that for the last 1, 2, 3, 4 days counting today, you're testing the weekly open. Remember, you can test support zones many times, but the more times you test it, the more likely that zone is to break. All right, same goes for resistance. If price is continuously testing resistance and closing at the resistance level, then we typically look for resistance to get broken. It's not looking good overall for the price of Bitcoin. It does look like it wants to go a little bit lower. With the job numbers and everything that we've seen, that is also probably really good for the Fed, and that would likely mean that we're going to see them continue with their projected rate hikes. We are seeing deceleration in the economy and deceleration in inflation pressures, which is good for the Fed. So, rate hikes are going to continue on the same trajectory more than likely. All right, here is a volatility metric. This is the VIX. This shows volatility in the markets. As you can see, we are trending lower as the S&P 500 had a close lower on Friday. We also had a lower close on this volatility metric. Now, I do have daily resistance drawn in here at 2436. That is kind of sort of acting like support. If the VIX does find support, the next thing we're going to be looking for is an increase in the price. If we get an increase in the VIX, then that's likely going to mean more downside for risk. And once again, another metric that we're keeping our eyes on during this bear market is the VVIX, which is the actual volatility measured inside of the VIX. I know it's a little bit confusing, especially if you are a new trader, but let's just say this. Typically in bear markets, when you have a bear market low, you're going to see spikes on highs. Spikes on highs is when you will find your low end of the downside move in risk. Right now, we are seeing volatility inside of the VIX go lower. So there is no increase in volatility just yet. We are at monthly support. This is the lowest region the VVIX has been since February the 13th, 2020. And you do know what came after February, obviously, was the March pandemic. Massive spike to the upside. So we are seeing it at a support zone. It's lower than it's been since then, so we're looking for this to potentially find support and go back higher. Now, obviously, if it keeps going lower and it breaks down below support and keeps trending lower, then we'll look for risk to start to climb. But if this does find support and starts to head higher, we're going to be looking to sell any pops in price. All right, so here is the BTC CME futures. As you can see, still trading sideways inside of a range. There's your breakout. There's your sell-off right back down to the weekly opening range. If we go into the weekly time frame, you're going to see that this metric closed bullish. So that is important. Had this metric closed bearish at weekly support, then we would be definitely looking more so for downside continuation. Just for the simple fact that it closed bullish means that people are still trying to prop it higher. And if we do start to climb higher, we're going to have a couple areas of resistance to watch moving on into next week. And if those resistance areas hold, then we're going to be looking to sell, looking for the move lower, targeting this gap fill. We did tag that gap when we started lower. We did hit our $26,000 target, but we have been trading sideways since, and we, without any kind of pressure from the bulls, looking to go back up and fill that upside gap. Now, this upside gap was my near-term target to look to become a seller again, but if the sellers are this vicious, not allowing any pops in price to continue with any kind of bullish momentum, then that has to lead me into thinking one thing, and that's either we're going to see more choppy sideways price action for the next week, or we're probably going to be looking for a break down below weekly support. And on this asset, there is 29,170 is last week's open, and we have a 28,815 being weekly support. Notice how the three bearish candles that we have right here, all three of them making lower closures. This is the first time we have seen a weekly candle make a higher close and a bullish close. So we do have to kind of still be on alert for spikes in price. We don't want to sell any rip. We want to make sure resistance holds. But if you do get more bullish price action, if weekly support does seem to hold here, you could target last week's high. All right, so let's get rid of these lines real quick. Obviously, we want to keep weekly support on the table, not so much concerned about the weekly open, as we know that the CME chart closed bullish. So that is comforting. But we will watch this to see if this area wants to hold a support. We're actually going to focus on the weekly support level. We're going to go ahead and draw a resistance level on this week's closure, because this week and this week, that's where she closed. This was your first inside week. We don't have anything there, so we'll watch that. We can go back into the daily time frame and see where that puts you. So you really only have you have a lot of daily candles over here that you could draw resistance lines from, but to make things easier, we have a resistance level right there. Daily close above 30,000, whatever that level is. Let's put a line on there so we know. Daily closure above $30,433 would have me targeting this next resistance level. If you do push up there and you fail to close above that level on a daily closing basis, I will be looking to take short positions targeting the downside of the range, because since we're in a very tight range, we're going to trade it as a very tight range. We're not going to look for any continuation, as looking for continuation is likely going to get you hurt. We're going to watch $30,433, any sort of daily close above, then we're going to be potentially targeting last week's high. A failure to close above $30,433, we will be targeting last week's support at $29,447. If you like the video, make sure you smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, also maybe subscribe. Thank you guys so much for your time. Make sure you guys trade safe, make sure you trade smart, and as always, happy trading, everybody.